What is up? What is up? What is up? Welcome to the video. I want to cover today in this video the reason why you cannot focus. So, first of all, getting into it, why should you listen to me? Why should you listen at all? For anyone that knows anything about me, focus is one of those things that I've learned how to develop over the years. Focus is one of those things that has helped me achieve the physique I have in the gym, and it's not the best physique, but as far as someone in their 30s that is natural, that has never done any drugs, that's never been on steroids, I would like to say it's an above average physique. I have my real estate license. I'm a real estate agent, and I've been able to achieve getting that license while working multiple jobs. I've written multiple books, owned three separate businesses, had one of the most successful podcasts in Northern Virginia, and I've also been invited to be a guest on numerous podcasts. In addition, I've graduated from Penn State on the Dean's List. And for anyone that's watching or listening to this and who's not familiar with the Dean's List is you got a really good GPA. I managed to balance a life of work and fun while finding and maintaining relationships, and that is social relationships as well as personal relationships. And I've done all of this before the age of 30. And as you can see, here's a couple images kind of just showing a few aspects of my life. This is a screenshot from a podcast I did earlier this year. The podcast was called the Alaman Studio. This was kind of like an in-person podcast that I did. I don't usually do too many in-person podcasts, but this one, they specifically wanted an in-person podcast. So I did that. That is a screenshot of me, or I should say, I guess, a photo of me from the podcast. And this is a photo of me and my girlfriend. And the reason why I bring all these things up, my personal philosophy is that in life, the thing you should strive for is a balance of health, wealth, and relationships. And to me, the way you achieve all three of these things, at least when it comes to my business, when it comes to my clients, the things that I've seen, is you need to be able to manage yourself and, more importantly, manage your time. And in order to manage your time effectively, you need to be able to focus. And I think focus is one of those things that is lacking in the modern era. So, why is this important? The human attention span has decreased by 25% in the past decade. I'm sure if you're watching this, you probably know this to be true. You probably don't need any research to see this in action. You yourself probably have bad focus, which is probably why you clicked this video. And they've done a variety of different studies to kind of get an idea of how everyone's focus is nowadays. The modern human focus, at least in the US, has decreased immensely. It's decreased by 25% in the past decade. That's huge. I read a few articles, and some of the articles kind of state that nowadays humans' attention span is so low, it's less than that of a goldfish. And I think a goldfish's attention span is about 5 seconds. Humans have a shorter attention span than a goldfish. So that's kind of why I have this like photo over here. This is you, the goldfish in the bowl. But I bring this up because, like I said, focus is one of those things. If you want to get in better shape, if you want to make more money, if you want to have a better social life, whatever, if you want to have a better quality life, you need to have the ability to focus. You need to have the ability to concentrate on something for a certain duration of time, a set length of time, in order to improve yourself. If you can't focus, you won't be able to improve yourself. Now, one of my personal philosophies is that you are competing against other people. And the best way to compete against other people, the best way to get a competitive edge, is to do one of two things. You can do something that most people cannot do, or you can do something that most people are unwilling to do. And you have to decide between the two, which one you want to do. There are some things out there that people are just unwilling to do. And if you are willing to do it, then cool, go for it and do it. For some people, that might be like working long hours. A lot of people don't like to work long hours. For some people, that might be going a year or 2 years or 5 years, not drinking, not going out, not partying, all that stuff. If you can do that, that's fantastic. That'll give you a competitive edge. And then the other way is you can just do things that people can't do. And there's plenty of people that cannot focus. A lot of people can't sit down for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, 5 hours at a time and just focus on something. A lot of people don't take the time to even do basic things like read. So if you're willing to do those things, and these are just examples like the reading or the focusing, but if you are willing to do those things, you can have a competitive edge against most people and and kind of just outperform most people in the grand majority of things. So my thought process is, because most people struggle to focus, this is where you can outperform others for a competitive edge. And to me, focus is one of those things where, like I said, if you can manage to learn how to focus more efficiently, it applies to every aspect of your life. It's one of those traits where by just kind of learning it, by mastering it and understanding it, you improve your life tenfold. Now, what I want to do in this video is I kind of want to just show you how to focus more. And specifically, the way I want to show you how to focus more is by breaking your social media habit. And I want to focus on social media breaking your social media habits, or I should say your bad social media habits. I want to focus on that primarily because I think that's the thing that kind of contributes to the lack of attention span in the modern era. I think a lot of people are so hijacked mentally by these algorithms, by these platforms, that they find it difficult to focus. Just picture your friends, like right now, as you're watching this or listening to this, just think about you or your friends. I imagine that when you're in a certain setting, if you get bored, and you probably get bored really fast nowadays, the moment you get bored, you probably sit there and you go on your phone and just start to scroll. It's like it's almost subconscious. Like you don't even realize you're doing it sometimes. You just do it instinctively. That is because the social media algorithms, these businesses, these companies, they've hijacked your brain. They make it so that way it's almost impossible to focus. And you're not alone. Like if you're listening to this, don't think that you're the only person that goes through this. Most people are like this, which again is why I'm sharing this video with you, because I think if you can get over this, we'll call it a handicap. If you can get over this handicap, I think you'll find that you'll be a lot better off. You'll be far more competitive when it comes to most people. So, real quick, before we get into the actual meat and potatoes of this video, before I get into the actual content, I do want to offer a shameless plug. If you are unaware, I'm the owner of a business known as Productivity Accelerator. This business helps people who want to dominate in life do exactly what they want to do when they want to do it without the stress and in less time. Basically, what I do is I sit there and I kind of help you figure out how to maximize your time more effectively, how to get more things done in less time and with less stress. Now, if you're a young professional, or if you're someone that's trying to grow a business, an entrepreneur, this is the perfect program for you. It's me with you one on one. I do group sessions as well, but I think the one on one sessions are where you get the most benefit. But either way, I sit with you one on one. We walk through your goals, we walk through your plan, we walk through your strategy, and we help you figure out how to get more things done in less time, more efficiently. So that way you have the time to get in better shape if that's what you want to do. You have the time to make more money if that's what you want to do. You have the time to socialize more, have more fun, or go on more dates. Whatever it is you want to do, this program right here will help you accomplish that. So if you're watching this, there's a link below that you can click. If you click it, it'll take you to a page. You'll see a presentation. The presentation is kind of my 3P system, and basically it's a 30-minute video, but it goes over my system that'll show you how to get more things done in less time and guarantee a perfect day every day. The system itself takes like 10 minutes to do every single day, but I guarantee if you just follow that system step by step, which I show you how to do in the video, you'll already be better off than I literally would say like 90% of people, because most people don't plan their day. Most people don't know how to strategize or effectively manage themselves. So if you can, you'll be significantly further ahead. In addition, you'll also get access to all of my courses. You'll get 2 free one-on-one sessions. You'll get access to all of my guides, my planner, and everything else you need to become hyper productive without grinding away all day, every day. And I'm going to be very transparent. I don't like when businesses aren't transparent with like pricing. It's not a cheap program. I know compared to other programs, it's actually pretty cheap compared to a lot of programs I've seen. But I understand that for a lot of people, $97 a month is a lot, or you can pay $9.97 a year. It's a little bit cheaper when you kind of do the math. It's a bit cheaper for each month, but I know both of those can be a bit expensive. So I do offer free group coaching as well. In order for the group coaching, I recommend joining my Instagram page where I give updates on when I'm going to do those. I usually do those twice a month. So yeah, click the link. You'll learn a lot more. And without further ado, let's get into the actual video itself. So there are 4 steps that I recommend people take to cure their social media addiction. And these are kind of the things that I personally did to cure my social media addiction. If you know anything about me, in the past, I was pretty addicted to social media. And it was a combination of just posting all day, not posting like good content, but like posting like stories, just like stuff that people didn't care about. And then endless scrolling. That was like the two things I would do all the time. And my friends would call me out on it. They're always kind of just like, you always post like all these stories and you're always just kind of like scrolling through Instagram. If you saw like my phone, like how much I would just be on Instagram, and I'm going to get into some of that shortly, it was a lot. So I found a system that I used to kind of break my social media addiction. I want to share that with you. It's a very simple to follow system. I'm going to walk you through what I did step by step. Um, so that way you can literally just copy and paste exactly what I did. So, the first thing you need to consider when you're trying to cure your social media addiction is, do you even have an addiction? And I say this because I think the word addiction it's thrown around way too much. Like, people think everything nowadays is an addiction. And I think it's important to kind of keep in mind that you doing something consistently is not necessarily an addiction. It can just be you actively using your time effectively. And I'll give an example. You can play a video game for like 7 hours a day. If you do it once in a while, when you choose to do it because maybe you're relaxing or maybe you want to decompress, whatever, that's not an addiction. That's just you choosing to do a certain activity for an extended period of time. However, if you play video games 7 hours a day, every single day, and you don't want to play video games, but you find it very difficult to break away from the video games, that is an addiction. I would consider that more of an addiction. So I think it's important to kind of understand that distinction. Now, in my opinion, using social media frequently is not an addiction if you're using social media with intent. And the key word there is intent. The goal is to use social media, not to let social media use you. Now, I have some friends who use social media for business, and they post content frequently, or they're on their social media kind of responding to DMs, sending like cold DMs. They do this all day. But they're using social media to their advantage. They're not letting social media use them. Now, if they weren't making money from the platform, or if they thought that there was no money to be made, I can almost guarantee they'd stop using the platform immediately. But they use it because there's money to be made. They are using social media for their personal advantage, not the other way around. And then there are other people I know that just scroll habitually. I have some friends who, this is funny, they do this all the time. They'll quit social media because they find themselves just like scrolling endlessly. It'll be like 11 p.m. or 10 p.m. and they'll be scrolling the entire night, like until like 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 3 a.m., whatever. And after doing this for about a month or so, they quit social media. They just drop off the earth, at least as far as social media is concerned. You can't find their profile. They deactivate everything. And then like a few weeks later, a month later or so, they're back on the platform. This is social media using them because they want to break their bad habit. They want to break the addiction, and they understand that they have an addiction. But the issue is they can't find a good way to actually cure themselves of this addiction. So what they do is they delete the social media, but that doesn't really solve the problem, because once they eventually give in and re-download these social media apps, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, they get sucked back into the cycle because they haven't really cured themselves of the habit. They've just removed the habit from their lives. And I want to say this really fast before I get deeper into these steps. I think the best thing to do when you have an addiction, at least as far as like a social media addiction or some like minor addictions, I think what some people try to do is they try to like remove the addiction from their lives entirely. And I think to some degree that can work well if you can guarantee that that thing is removed indefinitely. I think the better thing to do is learn how to keep that thing around you and just not let it consume your mind, not give in to whatever temptations you have. It's kind of like alcohol to me. Like, I know some people when they have like an alcohol addiction, what they do is they try to stay away from alcohol, or they try to stay away from environments that have alcohol. What I think is better is to just learn how to not want to drink alcohol. Like, learn how to not want to drink alcohol to the point where if someone had a bottle of your favorite alcohol right in front of you, you just don't want to drink it. Or at least maybe you want to drink it, but you have enough self control or enough techniques or whatever, a system that you might use that will prevent you from actually drinking. Does that make sense? Because it's more effective to allow yourself to be around your vices or your bad habits and understand that you can just not give in rather than just hide from them. Hopefully that distinction makes sense. So, like, my goal for you when this in this video is not for you to like not have social media on your phone, because I think it's okay, but it's a temporary fix, and I think in the grand scheme of things, it's not the most effective strategy. My plan for you, or my goal for you by the end of this video, is to have you be able to have Instagram on your phone or Facebook or whatever your favorite social media platform is, TikTok, whatever. Have it on your phone, but not be controlled by it to the point where you could open it up, choose to scroll for all of like 10 minutes, and then put the phone away guilt free. Does that make sense? So, again, the goal is to not allow social media to use you, it's to use social media as you see fit. Yeah. So, like this guy on the right hand side with the snazzy pink suit. Don't be this guy. This is a guy that lets social media use him. And as you can see by the look on his face, he's a bit of a geek. Don't be a geek. So, this is my solution. And again, like I said, it's a very simple solution in the grand scheme of things, but I find it to be very effective. I think, it's funny. I think a lot of things that are very simple are quite effective. I think people kind of assume that in order for something to be truly effective, it needs to be complex. And I don't think that's the case. I think the more complex something is, the more likely it is to fail, because if it's too many steps or if it's too overly complicated, then it's just hard to implement. So, like I said, super simple. You'll be able to do this like literally in real time as you're watching this video. So, like I said, I would habitually scroll through Instagram. And it's one of those things where like I would see a photo or see like a video and just like click like and just scroll, click like and scroll. And half the time I wasn't even actually like watching the video. I wasn't even like engaged. I was just sitting there like clicking like and scrolling over and over again. And I would sit there and I would kind of realize like I spent a whole day doing nothing, like just scrolling, not wasting so much time, not being like productive, not getting stuff done. And then you feel guilt. Like at the end of the day, you just feel that. I'm sure you felt that before. You get that guilt where it's like, I could have done more with my day, but I didn't. Why didn't I do it? How do I fix this? And then you just like feel worse about yourself because like if you allow that habit to continue, I think what happens is you lose confidence in yourself. Like I really think that's what confidence is. It's kind of like you making a vow with yourself to do A, B, and C. And if you break those vows with yourself, this is how you lose confidence. But if you maintain those vows with yourself, this is how you gain confidence. So, that's kind of just my take on this. And by the way, really quick, the strategy that I'm going to share with you, I have an iPhone, so it works for iPhone users. If you have an Android, I apologize in advance. I don't have a strategy for Android users, but I imagine that Android has similar features on their phone. So, you might have to take a few extra steps and apply these things to your own phone. But I imagine, there's similar strategies or there's similar um we'll call them settings on your phone that you can use. So first thing I'd like to do is really really basic. Go to the settings menu on your phone. Then once you get to the settings menu, you're going to go to the screen time section of that menu. And as you can see, this is what it looks like in the photo over here. It'll say screen time. Now, once you go to the screen time section, it'll show you how much time you've been using your iPhone. And again, this is how you want to figure out if you even have like an addiction. Now, this is an actual screenshot from my phone. In one day, I was on my phone for 7 hours and 32 minutes. But I want you to you need to understand this. This is not me just scrolling endlessly on social media. When I use my phone, most of the time I'm on my phone like using the browser app, like my Safari app or whatever it is, to like look up stuff or do research or whatever. Or I'm using YouTube, and I rarely use the actual YouTube app. Like if I'm at the gym, I'll use the YouTube app because you can kind of put it in the background and still listen to it. Usually though, I use YouTube from like the Safari app, and I'm either watching like courses or I'm just looking at videos for entertainment or podcasts. Every once in a while, I'll look at podcasts through YouTube. So this is kind of what contributes to me being on my phone for 7 hours and 32 minutes. So I want to make that distinction clear because I don't want someone to see this and kind of go, "Oh, well, you're on your phone for 7 hours, so you must be addicted." It's not me being addicted and scrolling endlessly and wasting time. It's me actively using my phone with a particular purpose. It's all planned out. Um, yeah. So like I said, I use my phone often to check my emails, DM people, but what you need to do is use this number to give you a general idea of how much you're on your phone. And I say this because sometimes people don't realize like how much time they waste on their phone. Um, quick, quick little side note: when I have clients for my productivity accelerator business, what I usually recommend they do, one of the first things I recommend is journal their entire day from start to finish. And a lot of people don't like doing this, but it's super beneficial. And I always tell people, journal your day from start to finish. Like, don't change anything. Just do what you would normally do. But I want you to sit there and write out by the hour everything you did. And the reason why you do this, the reason why I tell people to do this, my clients, is because what a lot of people do is they think they don't waste time. Like if you were to ask a lot of people, they would sit there and say, "Oh, I don't spend that much time doing A, B, and C. Oh, I don't waste time at all. I make great use of my time." And the reality is a lot of people actually waste a lot of time, but because they're not really tracking their time or because they're not measuring how they're spending their time, they don't notice how much time actually like slips through the cracks. So by you writing out your day from start to finish, you really get to sit there and see how much time you waste. I had a client recently and I had him do this exact same thing, like this exact strategy. And he thought that he was so productive every single day. And then we'd review his journal and he would say, like, "Oh, yeah, I meant to wake up at 6, but I ended up waking up at like 8 or 9. Why'd you end up waking up at 8 or 9? Oh, because I hit snooze like over and over again. Okay, cool. So you already started off like losing time. Like you started off already like 3 hours behind what you intended. Cool. Step one is already failed. Then he might have had like meetings he wanted to do, or he has like a business, so he wanted to do outreach. He didn't do it, or at the very least, he did it for like an hour, and then he started scrolling through social media, took a break, had a phone call with his friend for like another hour and a half. Now, prior to him tracking his time, he didn't realize that he did those things. But once we sat there and just looked at his like daily structure, his journal for the day, as he's seeing it in real time, he's like, "Oh, you know what, man? I didn't even realize that I was on the phone for like an hour and a half." Because time flies. This is how things get. This is how it is. Time flies. Now he was probably enjoying that phone call, but the phone call cost him an hour and a half. So you know, this is important to keep in mind. Like tracking things helps immensely. There's a good expression: "What doesn't get measured doesn't get managed." This is absolutely true. Understand how much time you're on your phone to begin with, and then you can reverse engineer how much of that time on your phone is productive time and how much of that time on your phone is wasted time. So this is like my first step right here. Just figure out how much time is on your phone, and then from there, be honest with yourself and kind of really sit there and assess: are you on your phone more than you'd like to be, or are you on your phone an adequate amount? The next thing you're going to do is you're going to audit your screen time. Now, when I say audit your screen time, basically what I want you to do is sit there, and this is kind of like a piggybacking off the last step. Really sit there and like dial in and figure out everything you did that day. Did it contribute to your goal? That's the key question to ask. And I think in order for you to really answer that question, you first need to actually have goals established. And this is what a lot of people don't have. A lot of people don't have actual goals established. So, what I recommend is make a list of your top goals. I say 1 to 5 top goals. And usually, what I recommend people do is make 1 to 5, and I mean 1 to 5 total, 1 to 5 total health goals, money goals, and relationship goals, like total. So you can have like 3 health goals, 1 money goal, 1 relationship, 2 relationship, 2 money, 1 health. It doesn't matter like, how many of each category, but total have up to 5. And then my usual suggestion is when you have 5 kind of written out, and when I say goal, by the way, I mean be objective about the goal. Like if you want to make, say, for example, $120,000, be objective. I want to make $120,000 by X date. I think that helps immensely. But once you have those goals established, then what I want you to do is take the top 3 most important goals and prioritize those. And when I say like the top three, also what I want you to do is take one of those three and really consider if it's a goal that has a trickle down effect. And so I usually tell people most money goals have trickle down effects. Like if your goal is to increase your income, and it should be to increase your income, it has a good trickle down effect because say for example you have a secondary goal of gaining 10 pounds of muscle. How much easier would it be to have a better diet and buy better supplements if you made more money? Does that make sense? So you want your goals to have a trickle down effect. So that's your first step. Make 5 goals, narrow it down to 3, and then from there just prioritize one. Like if you have a list of 3, circle the one that to you matters the most, that will lead to the most significant results. And again, like I said, I kind of mentioned this already, kind of got a little bit ahead of myself, but journal your screen time. Literally list out what you do the entire day. I recommend by the hour. And then sit there at the end of the day. I want you to sit there and look at everything you did in a single day and ask yourself, does the majority of what you did contribute to the goal that you set yourself? The main like focus goal. Does it at least contribute to one of the 3? But hopefully does it at least do most of your actions contribute to your primary goal that you set? If the answer is no, then you need to fix something. Now, if the answer is yes and they do contribute, then I think you're fine. I think you could probably cut this video off because you probably don't struggle with an addiction and you probably don't struggle with productivity or time management or being effective. You're probably on track to get whatever it is done that you want to get done. But if you're in the category of people that is not getting done what they want to get done and they're not being productive and most of their actions are not contributing to their long-term goal, then the steps I'm going to share with you coming up are going to be super vital. Now, I want to bring this up right here because I mentioned earlier, most of your actions should contribute to your primary goal, but I didn't say all of your actions. And the reason why I don't think all of your actions need to contribute to your goals is because I just don't believe in the idea of like endless grinding. I say this, and I know some people are watching this are going to just disagree with me because you heard some other like influencer or some other YouTuber or some other like entrepreneur or rich dude say you should grind your face off, grind all day, work all day. I'll say one person that comes to mind is like Andrew Tate. He's a big proponent of just work all day. If you watch a lot of his videos, he says like, all I do is work. All I do is work. And that's why I'm so rich. And there's 2 things I'm going to say about that. One, whenever I see people say that all they do is work, it's almost 100% false. And it's false because what they define as work is not what most people define as work. So using Andrew Tate as an example, he'll say, all I do is work. But his definition of work is just contributing to his brand, which ultimately makes him more money, is by having a big brand. That's super subjective because there's videos of him like playing video games, like literally playing Smash Brothers or playing like Nintendo. And he qualifies that as work because he's recording it, because he can use the recording as content. So it's kind of misleading because while he says all I do is work, his work, I think when people think of work, they think of like the unpleasant, not fun, not sexy stuff, like sitting at a computer, like thinking about, how you're going to structure your business or how you're going to structure your LLC or budgeting or, stuff like that, like actually talking to clients, things that usually people don't want to do, but they need to do to have a successful business or to, improve in their job, whatever. That's not what he's referring to. When he says all he does is work, what he means is all I do is things that contribute to my long-term goal, which is my brand, which leads to me making more money. That's what he's saying. But the things that fall under that umbrella, he qualifies all his work because he has a cameraman on him 24/7 that can record it and then repurpose it for content. That is the key difference. So a lot of people that say all I do is work or work, they lie. They don't just work all day. They do make time for themselves. Second part of that, there's something called the Pareto principle. And if you're not familiar with it, I'm just going to kind of summarize it. Basically, 80% of your efforts lead to 20% of your results. And the reverse is also true. So 20% of your efforts lead to 80% of your results. And I always tell people, I tell my clients this, I've said this in other videos. The thing you need to do is figure out what that 20% is that leads to the 80% of results and pretty much cut everything else out. And the thing I want you to understand is that you're doing all of this. Like the thing that a lot of these gurus or entrepreneurs always miss is you're not competing 100% with everyone else. You're mostly competing with yourself. I really want that to sink in because a lot of these dudes will say, like, you need to work because you need to be competitive. True, it's good to be competitive. And to a degree, you are being competitive with other people, but you're being most competitive with yourself. And the thing that people neglect is that everyone has different goals. So you're only competing to an extent against other people. Does that make sense? Like if your goal is to make, let's say, for example, your goal is to not want to work. Maybe you don't want to work that much every single day. Maybe you want to take more of like the Dan Co route where you're working like a couple hours in the morning, 4 hours, I think is what he says in some of his videos. He writes for 4 hours and the rest of the day he does whatever he wants. That's a perfectly fine day. And for a lot of people, that's the ideal day. Not everyone wants to have a Lamborghini or Ferrari or Bugatti. Not everyone wants to go on these like lavish vacations in Miami or Dubai, whatever. Not everyone even wants like a family. Not everyone wants kids. Everyone's goals are different. So you need to tailor your strategy to your goals. Now, if your goal is to work, say, for example, 4 hours a day and live a good life, live a happy life, live a flourishing life, live below your means, whatever, you could hypothetically make a million working 4 hours a day, but you could even make six figures working 4 hours a day. You could make a low six figure, you could make million. What doesn't matter. The amount doesn't matter. The point that I'm making is that you don't need to be Andrew Tate or you don't need to be these influencers that say work all day. Because if you listen directly to exactly what they want, you'll get close to exactly what they have. Not exactly because everyone's different. And you won't be able to achieve the exact results of people. But the more closely you follow someone's advice, the more closely you get the life that they have. And side tangent, a life that they have include the problems that they have. So I want you to keep that in mind. Understand that if you're willing to take someone's advice, you get the benefits that they offer, but you also get the negatives. They both come together. Um, so that's just my perspective. And then one more thing about this whole like grind all day and just work all the time. You're a human being. You're not a robot. If you work too much, if you work too hard, you will burn out. And I think the burnout is actually one of the worst things you can do because once you start to burn out, it can be difficult to recover. That's just my 2 cents. I found that from personal experience. I think it's good to have like a lot of 60 to 80% productivity days and do those 60 to 80% productivity days 365 days a year, or at least 300 days a year, whatever, like most of the year, instead of having like maximum 100% productivity days, but you can only do it for like 2 weeks out of a quarter because you burn out, or like maybe a month out of a quarter because you just burn out. Does that make sense? Like one is more quantity, more is one, the other one is quality. And I think in the grand scheme of things, you do want quality over quantity. If you can have both, that's perfect. But I think if you just try to like grind all day, you're going to get a lot of quantity, but you're not going to get a lot of quality. And eventually you won't even have quantity because you'll, like I said, you'll burn out and it's not going to work out for you in the long run. So that's my 2 cents on that. Now, the next thing you want to do while you're auditing your screen time is while you're still in the screen time section, check and see how much time you're spending in each of the categories. And I think this is important. You want to make sure that, like I mentioned this earlier, I spend 7 hours on my phone, but a lot of this, and this is like my actual screenshot, as you can see, 46 minutes is spent on Instagram. 2 hours is Netflix because sometimes when I'm working, I put on like a documentary or, every once in a while for just entertainment, I use my phone, put on Netflix, I'm watching like anime or something like that. And then YouTube and Safari are the most. I already mentioned Safari. I'm on my phone. I do research on there. I use Chat GPT, a bunch of stuff. I look at courses on there. I usually use Safari to watch YouTube. So that's a big chunk of that 4-ish hours, 3 hours and 53 minutes. Let's call it 4 hours. And then YouTube, I'll use the YouTube app when I'm at the gym, like doing cardio or working out, because you can put it in the background and still hear the audio, but still like scroll on your phone. And when usually if I'm at the gym, I'm looking at my workout routine or something like that. So that's where that number comes from. Yeah, I kind of went over this already, but my Instagram usage is super low. I do set aside time to like do mindless scrolling because I do. There's a lot of Instagram posts that are just funny. And to be honest, like the comment section of a lot of videos are quite fun to watch and quite fun to read. So I'm not gonna say I never use social media to like just mindlessly scroll. That's nonsense. You know, I think it's perfectly fine to like allow yourself to get into the black hole of social media, so to speak. But like I mentioned in the beginning of this video, the goal is to use social media. Don't let social media use you. And yeah, like I don't know if I said this already, but sometimes I go through Instagram to look for other content ideas. Sometimes I'll just save them to a folder. And nowadays, what I've been doing is remixing and sequencing. So if I find a video that I want to sequence or remix, you know, I'll go on like long binges of Instagram just to like save videos for later to make content with. One thing that you got to keep in mind is the key is to be honest with yourself. Only you know why you're using, whatever app you're using for whatever reason. So like if you do see that your Instagram usage is high, you could be like the dude that's got a business and he just DMs people all day. So your usage might be high, but it's still productive. Like you're still doing important stuff. Or you're doing things that contribute to your goal. You're not wasting time. But you got to be honest with yourself. That's the key thing. And this is kind of like a little hack. I don't think a lot of people know this, but I find it helps. Um, I don't do this much now, but I used to do it a lot in the past when I was more addicted. You can set limits on an app if you struggle to like really break away from it. So I don't do this to my LA Fitness app, of course, because I barely use it. I just use it once to check in. But this is just a screenshot to give you an example of where this like option is. If you go to an app like Instagram, and I used to do this for Instagram a lot, Instagram and Facebook, I would do this. If you struggle to like, if you scroll too much on Instagram and you just don't want to do it and you find it like really difficult to break free of it, what you can do is set the limit. And let's say, for example, you spend 5 hours a day on average on Instagram. You can add a limit and limit yourself to 4 hours. And then once 4 hours is up, it'll just block you from Instagram. Now, of course, don't be disingenuous and like go to the settings menu and disable the limit. Like, be honest with yourself, like I said earlier. But this helps you reduce the amount of time that you're on whatever platform you struggle to break free from. And my thing is like, don't go like all in initially. I know people say like go all in, and then that's like the sexy phrase to say. Sounds more badass, sounds cooler. I get that. I like to ease into things. I think by easing into things, you kind of acclimate yourself better, and I think it's healthier in the long term. So what I recommend, if you spend like 5 hours on Instagram, do a limit for 4 hours, and then once 4 hours, is manageable and you don't feel super stressed out when that 4 hour limit hits, and you really still want to reduce it, you feel like you're not being as productive as you could, limit it to 3.5 hours. And if you still feel like you're not being as productive as you could, limit it again to 3 hours, and so on. That's my recommendation. Like I said, if you spend 5 hours on Instagram, don't jump from 5 hours to like 30 minutes. You're gonna just quickly break from that habit, and you're gonna just like give in, and you're gonna remove the limit, which you don't want to do. So we've covered steps 1 and 2. Step 3, curate your feed. Now, I'm sure if you're watching this video, you understand this. Social media is designed to hijack your brain. I've said this earlier, but I don't think people understand the exact lengths that these social media platforms go to like really dominate your attention. Like this is how they make their money. People say that social media is free. It's not free. You're the product. You're the one that makes the content for the platform, and they run ads on the platform, which monetizes your attention. So you are the product of the platform. I have heard, and I can't verify if this is 100% true, but this is just what I've heard. I have heard that the camera on your phone, or even like your microphone, and some of you may have experienced this, these are also things used to send you ads, or these are also things used to curate your feed. So if you're scrolling on the Explore page, for example, and you look at certain pieces of content longer than others, like if you're scrolling, you see like one of those IG booty chicks or whatever like that, and you look at it, you don't have to actually click it. You don't have to like it. You don't have to comment on it. From what I understand, by you looking in that direction for a certain period of time, the camera in your phone logs that in, and it says, oh, this guy using the platform, Lenny using the platform, looked at Instagram booty chicks on his Explore page longer than he's looking at the productivity stuff, or longer than he's looking at I don't know, the suits, or longer than he's looking at the fitness guy, whatever. And because they saw you looking at it longer, they understand that this is what gets your attention. And because they understand what gets your attention, they're going to start pushing that stuff to you more. And I think this is kind of why, even when you try to disable certain content from your feed, it still shows up. Like, I've had times in the past where I'll sit there, and this is what I recommend you do when you're trying to curate your feed. Usually at the top right of the screen, I actually should have had a screenshot, but at the top right of like most posts, you can put like hide this post. Or if you're in your explore page and you're scrolling and you see posts that you don't want to look at more, like for example, I do this for like the Instagram like booty chicks, or all these girls who just try to like be overly sexual on Instagram. If you hold the photo down or hold the video down, an option will pop up that says show me less of this content, something like that. And if you click it, it'll show you less. But the thing is, you have to really do it to a lot of videos or a lot of photos for them to really stop sending you those pieces of content, those types of content. Because if you do it to like one, from my understanding, you can take one video, for example, and say, I don't want to look at this. But if you find yourself scrolling through the explore page and you do happen to look at it longer without actually clicking on it, like I said with the camera, it's still logging that in as you're interested. So it kind of overrides you manually trying to get rid of seeing that type of content. Hopefully that makes sense. So usually what I do is I go on like a binge of content I just don't want to see. I unfollow people that I don't want to see content from. So like my friends, if they have like really lame content, and when I say lame, I'm saying lame in the sense that it's not productive or doesn't contribute to my life. I have a friend of mine. He gets really upset because like I don't watch his stories, and I don't like I follow him, but I have him like muted. And it's nothing really against him. It's just that most of his content is like political, or it's him working out. Neither of which I care about. So I don't look at it. It doesn't contribute to my life or my goals. So I just don't look at it. Um, I recommend you do that. Will people get mad? Yeah, people are gonna get mad because people take social media so seriously that sadly, if you don't look at all of their content, they think you don't like them. Even though it's like people are just selfish. People are just like, oh, you're not giving me attention. Oh, you must not like me. It's like, no, bro, you're just not that interesting. Like you're interesting in real life, but your manufactured photo that you took, that you had to like take 50 times in a row, or this like random video you made about you being shirtless, is not all that interesting to me. Get over yourself. Not that big of a deal. Let's go hang out in person, grab a beer, grab some coffee, grab some ice cream, whatever, bro. But stop being so full of yourself. But yeah, this is what I do. I'll like mute people or just unfollow them if their content's not like beneficial. And I'll do my best to like find content that is beneficial and mass like it or mass comment to it, because I think that's most helpful. So you have to kind of like train the algorithm to give you the things that you want to see. And I truly think that if you give yourself a lot of productive content, in a way, one, if you do find yourself scrolling, at least it's semi-productive because you're learning things. But I also find that you're less likely to like fall into that Instagram black hole or that TikTok black hole if the content you're seeing is actually productive, because it feels like learning. And I feel like when you're actively learning, it's easier to break free from that. Does that make sense? It's like if you say, for example, you're doing like homework, you might set a timer to do homework, but you don't go out of your way to just do homework. Most likely. Some people probably do. There are probably some people out there that love doing homework. But I think for the most part, once it starts to feel like a bit of work, or once it starts to take effort or like some brain power, people usually start to stray away from it. So again, use that to your advantage and curate your feed effectively. And then the final thing I recommend is get an accountability partner. And I think this is going to be the most beneficial tip that you can take away from this video. Now, I want to share the story real quick. Years ago, I went to this thing called the High Status Summit. If you can't tell from the right, it's kind of a blurry photo, but there's this entrepreneur I used to follow back in the past. I still follow him. He doesn't post a lot of content anymore, but this dude named Jason Capital. Highly recommend his videos. He has some interesting marketing videos. He used to do like dating stuff in the past. If you are into that stuff, I think it's beneficial, but I like a lot of his business stuff, and I recommend that stuff the most. But he used to have conferences called the High Status Summit. Basically, it was like a weekend event. You go in, and he'd have a lot of like speakers come up. Like a lot of business people come in and they would share, like their strategies, their secrets, all that stuff. I found it very useful. And I remember one of the speakers, he was doing like this Q&A, and one of the guys in the crowd kind of raised his hand and said, he was like, all the stuff you guys are teaching me is fantastic, and I'm taking notes and I want to do this. But I struggle to, one, find the motivation, two, find the discipline, three, maintain the consistency to do everything you guys are recommending I do. And so the guy says to him, you don't need motivation. And for the most part, you don't need discipline. What you need is accountability. And so the guy goes like, what do you mean accountability? And so he was saying, do you have an accountability partner? Of course, the guy says no. And he said that when he wanted to improve himself, when he wanted to kind of grow himself, he also was in the same situation where he struggled to find motivation and he struggled to maintain discipline. And so what he did, and this is what I recommend you do, is he did what's called MOTL, which is money on the line. He put money on the line. And so what he did is, and the next slide will have like the steps so you can read it. But what he did is he found a friend and he offered the friend $100. I think he actually offered more, but for the sake of this video and for you, if you don't have like tons of money, $100 is plenty. $50 if you can afford, $50 is fine too. It needs to be uncomfortable. That's the key thing. It needs to be uncomfortable, so it can't be too low. Like, don't offer your friend like $5, $10, whatever. It needs to be high enough where if you lose it, it feels uncomfortable, and also high enough to incentivize a friend to actually do this stuff because you're kind of paying for their time in a sense. So don't be cheap for your own sake. But he offered his friend money, and basically what the rule was is for whatever goal he had, his friend would check in at random times to make sure he was doing the goal. And if he wasn't doing the goal, or if he didn't complete whatever steps he was supposed to complete in a certain time frame, he would owe his friend $100. That was the thing. He'd have to like immediately Venmo his friend $100. And there was no like negotiations. There was no like, oh, I don't have it right now, I'll give it to you tomorrow. It was like, no, you do it right now, or you owe me way more. It'll get worse. So this is extreme accountability. And this is when someone's watching you, making sure you're accomplishing your goals, but you put money on the line. You use something that's uncomfortable to you so that way you improve. And I put this on the previous slide, but I'm taking credit for this because I'm sure other people have said something similar, but I came up with these two lines, so I want to take full credit for it. But you either suffer the discomfort of growth or you suffer the pain of failure. And I say this because I think what will happen when you kind of go through this extreme accountability is basically two things. You're going to be uncomfortable no matter what, but you'll be uncomfortable enough where you'll be forced to grow. Kind of like when you're at the gym, you're lifting weights. If you lift heavy enough, it sucks and it kind of hurts and it's uncomfortable, but you grow and you kind of feel better as you start to grow. But in the moment when you're actually working out, it's not very fun. You doing like your squats, your barbell squats isn't very fun. You doing your leg extensions, your hack squats, or for some people it's pull-ups, whatever, is not very fun to do. But in order for you to grow, it needs to be done. Or you can also suffer the pain of failure. You can be uncomfortable and be so uncomfortable that you don't do anything at all and you remain in the same place you've always been. Really, you're kind of declining because the world around you is still improving. The world around you is still growing. So you're basically being a loser while everyone else around you is being a winner. It's uncomfortable too, but you got to choose your discomfort. So this is kind of what I recommend you do is extreme accountability. Again, find a person, and I use the example down here. Let's say you have a goal of working out 3 times a week. Basically, what you want to do is offer a friend $100 to check in at random times to make sure you're maintaining your progress. So if you said you're going to work out 3 times a week, and again, just real quick, because I know someone watching this is going to be like, well, technically, if I work out 3 times in one day, I've worked out 3 times in 1 week. No, 3 separate days within the week you need to work out. And you can set the parameters of a workout means like 30 minutes of like actual lifting heavy weights or whatever. You can set the parameters with your friend. But let's say hypothetically, you're working out 3 days a week, 3 separate days a week. If your friend calls you on a Saturday and you haven't worked out at least 2 times, you automatically owe him $100 because chances are, I mean, unless you work out, say for example, that Saturday for your second workout and Sunday, but be honest with yourself. If it's like Saturday, say it's like Saturday night at 11 p.m. and you haven't worked out that second time, give him the $100 because there's no way you're going to pull off working out that late at night. Let's be real. And you're already behind. Make sense? That's extreme accountability. If you do that enough times, you will see yourself improve. You will see yourself complete your goals. The second thing you can do, and this is what I did, is you can hire somebody. Now, years ago when I was doing real estate, I had an accountability coach because I struggled to do the things that I was supposed to do in real estate. I did not like calling people. I did not like marketing. I did not, everything about real estate, I did not like doing except thinking about getting commission checks. That was all I liked to think about. And I didn't do the things to get the commission checks. So I hired a productivity coach. It cost me about $450 a month. Yeah, it was $450 a month. I can't talk right now. And we would do 2 calls 2 times a week. And basically, at the end of every call, he would sort of, or I guess during the call, he would assess what I'd done the previous 2 weeks. And he kind of set like benchmarks. And he would, we'd sit there and talk about what I did, what I didn't do, why I didn't do it. And it sounds simple, but it's effective because it's weird. Nothing sucks worse than sitting there and saying to somebody, I fucked up because I didn't do A, B, and C. You said I should do A, B, and C. You said I should knock on 100 doors, and I knocked on 10. Why'd you knock on 10? You can make any excuse in the book and say, like, oh, well, I was tired, or this thing came up, my dog bit my hand, and I had to wear like a cast, and some like rabbits attacked me and like broke my leg, so I couldn't like walk outside and knock on some doors. You can make up an excuse, but he's going to know it's an excuse, and you're going to know it's an excuse, and you're going to feel like shit for saying it to him. And it's, it's a call, so you're going to be saying it to somebody in real time, which sucks. So it's going to force you to do it. I put example here of books in the dentist's office. There was one point where the accountability coach I had, he said, for your marketing, because I had written these like books at the time, like these little like pamphlets that he recommended, and it was to differentiate myself from other real estate agents. And he said, okay, now you have the books. What you're going to do is you're going to go to different like doctor's offices and insurance offices, or places where people frequent often, and you're going to ask them if you can put the book in their waiting area. And you know what? It doesn't sound like it's that awkward, or it doesn't sound like it's that uncomfortable, but I did not want to do it. I did not want to do it. It sucked. Like once I did it, it didn't suck that bad. But there's something, the idea of like driving to a random dentist office, not calling ahead. He said, don't call ahead. You just go in and you ask if you can put the books at their waiting area. The thought of doing that was so uncomfortable, but I did it because I was being held accountable. Because the thought of me talking to a random dentist, for example, and saying, hey, I'm a real estate agent. Do you mind if I put like some of my books here? People can take them. They're free. That was less uncomfortable than the thought of me during my biweekly call talking to this dude and saying, hey, I didn't talk to any dentist this week. Oh, why'd you not talk to any dentist this week, Lenny? Because I'm a pussy. That's why. Because I didn't want to. Because I was scared. That sucks way worse. So I did it. So that's another form of accountability. And by the way, again, shameless plug. If you need someone to help you with that, this is what Productivity Accelerator is all about. This is what Productivity Accelerator is for, helping people kind of get that one-on-one accountability that they need. There's a lot more that we do as well, but that's one of the main things that we help you with, is getting that accountability. Because I truly think that accountability is the thing that helps people really progress. It's kind of like working out. Like when you get a personal trainer, sure, the personal trainer can help you, with your diet. Sure, the personal trainer can help you with your workout routine. But at the end of the day, only you can eat a certain way. Only you can lift a certain way. And so really what the trainer is he's accountability. Because nothing would suck more than to show up to a trainer and say, I don't feel like it, or I didn't work out when I was supposed to work out, or I didn't eat what I was supposed to eat, even though you told me what to do. Why? Because I was lazy. That sucks. So that's really what a lot of these trainers are for. They're for accountability. So that's kind of my 4-step process. That's what I recommend you do if you want to break free from your social media addictions. Just to kind of refresh. 1, ask yourself if you even have an addiction in the first place. Because you might not have an addiction, and if that's the case, then a lot of these steps won't apply to you. Second step, audit your screen time. Make a journal of exactly what you do every single day. Make a journal of how much time you spend on your screen. Make a journal of how much you spend time on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, whatever, even other apps. It doesn't have to be just social media, but really sit there and like analyze where you're spending your time. Third thing, curate your feed. Understand that social media it's hijacking your brain. It's giving you these bursts of dopamine to keep you on the platform for as long as possible so that way they can monetize your attention. In order for you to break free from that, you need to curate your feed. Don't allow yourself to be sucked into like the pointless prank videos, the sexy girls, showing up off their bodies, twerking, all that stuff, the politics that's meant to get you heated, that's meant to get you just like angry, all the negative stuff. Don't be pulled into that. Be an active user of social media platforms. Don't let it use you. You use it, and curate your feed. And the final thing, get an accountability partner, because nothing sucks more than not doing what you're supposed to do, but also telling somebody I didn't do what I was supposed to do, even though I had the exact steps to do it. Nothing sucks worse than that. Trust me. And so the last thing I want to do is give you a little bonus. This is like another tip I recommend. This, I think, if nothing else helps, this certainly will. And I've had clients I recommended this to, and it works tremendously if you have a social media addiction. Use grayscale mode. Grayscale, so like, of course, as you probably know, there's like teams out there that use like psychology and different tactics to make the user interface, the UI is what they call it. They make the interface of the platform look as appealing as possible. It's almost like a video game. Like, you want it to look as appealing as possible because that contributes to you staying on the platform for as long as possible. The way you fight back against that is put everything in grayscale mode. If everything is black and white, it's significantly less appealing. And when it's less appealing, of course, you're not going to be on the platform as long. You'll go on, everything's in black and white. Nothing looks all that great. It looks kind of bland. It all kind of blends together. You'll be on the platform for 10 minutes and you'll click off because it got boring. This is what you want. You want social media to feel boring unless you're using it for your own personal gain. Does that make sense? So this is like my bonus tip right here. Use grayscale mode so that way you get bored from social media, so that way you break free from it. And you can use grayscale mode on your entire phone, by the way. It doesn't have to just be social media. If you find that you're on your phone just too much in general, use grayscale mode. Use it on your YouTube if you watch too many pointless YouTube videos, whatever it is. But yeah, that's my final tip for the video. So, like I said, if you're interested, there's a link in my description down below. If you click on it, it'll take you to a page where you can watch my 3P system. It's my 3-step method to guarantee that you have a perfect day every single day. It makes sure that you always have a productive day, no matter what. It's super simple, super easy to follow. It's 30 minutes. If you put it on like 1.5 time or 1.25, whatever, you can get through it in like 20 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. It's super easy to follow. I think I don't even really get it too deep into the actual tactics until about 10 minutes in. So just a little tidbit you can take away if you really don't have 30 minutes to kill, but you kind of want to still see the process. And to be honest, if you kind of go through that system, which it's a free video, by the way, but if you go through that system, that will be plenty to be more productive. Like, you won't even need any coaching, assuming you actually follow the steps. But if you do need coaching, like I said, I offer one-on-one coaching, which is paid for, but I also do group coaching. And for the group coaching, I recommend, following me on Facebook, or not Facebook, on Instagram, just to get updates on when I'm going to be doing a live session. And so you can get the link because I do it through Google Meet. So it's an exclusive link to join and ask questions and all that stuff. But yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like. It helps tremendously, helps boost me in the algorithm. Please leave a comment as well, especially if you have any questions. I read all of my comments, so leave a comment and I'll address it. I'll answer your question. And if you did like the video, also please consider subscribing and sharing this video with someone else that might also enjoy it. But until the next time, I'll see you in the next video. Peace out. Bye.